Hey everybody, and welcome to the Worldwide Workshop. My name is Matthew, and with me as always is Justin.
This is a masterclass for early childhood educators.
A conversation about developing your excellence.
Each week we will share our perspectives, experiences, and mistakes on our journey toward better practice.
So sit down and listen up. Welcome everybody to our first episode of Worldwide Workshop. Today we're going to be discussing the topic of being stuck in early childhood education. Justin, have you ever been stuck?
I have been stuck.
Yeah, me too. All right, so what I mean by being stuck is, you're not trying to get out of the field. You don't feel stuck in the field, but you feel stuck in a place that you're not progressing. You're not bettering yourself. You're not learning anymore. That kind of stuck. In my own experience, I remember back in maybe my 6th year of practicing early childhood education at Peter Green Hall Children's Center. Shout out to Peter Green Hall. When I was working there, I had worked with an amazing team in the preschool room and then switched over to after schoolers. And I had done some fantastic stuff in after schoolers, really trying to prove myself. And then I got to the point where I was really experimental with the environment and documentation and stuff like that. But I felt like I needed more guidance or more leadership. And it just, I asked my director about it and she said, well, you're going to have to go out of the province to get the kind of leadership you're looking for. And I was really kind of, I felt really stuck after she said that, like, well, I can't leave the province. I have to work here. So that's how I felt. Justin, how about you?
I think mine is similar because we were at the same center. Shout out to Peter Green Hall again.
Woo!
When I was working there for, I think, maybe 2 years, the director at that time just said that we've reached a certain part that we could do here in Nova Scotia. And at that point, it just sort of stopped me to think, is that all that there is? And then I kept trying to seek out different opportunities and still work at a center that I really enjoyed. But then I was wondering, am I needing to continue on?
Yeah, I remember that feeling. Also, there was another time that you were stuck. You were trying to move on up in that center, and it didn't work out the way you wanted. So
we're gonna go there.
We're gonna go there.
I think when I was at that point, I was probably 8 years into working at that center, and what I found was I thought if I moved up within the organization that it would help me or solve a problem that I felt that I was stuck. And it didn't work out because I guess the world wanted something better.
Yeah. Anyway, and it turned out to be really fantastic in the end, but at the time you were very upset about it.
Yes. Yeah. And you would be upset because you think that that's the job that you wanted to do. And I knew that in my head, I was planning all of the things that I would do with staff, with the community, and I was rethinking of how that job would look. And then it turned out that fate was not on that side.
Yeah, it was kind of like a 6-month-long process where you were developing different ways that you were going to support the staff, kind of coming up with new challenges for yourself because you didn't find the classroom itself challenging anymore.
Yeah.
And then when it came down to it and you were not the successful applicant, you couldn't really roll out all these plans that you had. And, that was really unfortunate.
It was. And, it took a while for me to get over it, but I did because one of the things that I think I've learned was what am I capable of, and taking the opportunity, sitting with it, listening to it, and then moving on and finding elsewhere.
Yeah. Another part about you being stuck was the risk that you took. You went from having a full-time, permanent, guaranteed job that paid well and had very good benefits, paid well for daycare at the time. But, you had good benefits. You had a lot of vacation time. We were going around the world at the time, seeing things. So there were a lot of benefits to being there. And leaving, You lost all your sick time. You lost all your vacation time. We are married, so that meant that I lost half of my vacation time because what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Take vacation while my husband is at work? That sucks. So yeah, it was a big risk to do that. So how'd you navigate that risk?
Well, I think the biggest thing was that you were very supportive with whatever direction I was going to go into. And I think it was more of what is it that I wanted to do? And it was helping educators and as well as helping the children and the community. So those are the three things that I think were navigating my decisions.
All right, we're just going to stop for a short commercial break. Thanks very much.
Hey, are you looking to do home improvements?
Yeah, but anyone I call doesn't show up, or the work they do just isn't great.
Well, you should try Perfect Tile and Flooring. Just ask for Moon. He can install bathrooms, kitchens, and a whole lot more.
Really? Have you seen his work though?
My bathroom felt like an indoor outhouse. Cracked tiles, stained tub, and holes to the outside world. Moon, from Perfect Tile and Flooring, came in and worked his magic. Our disaster bathroom was transformed into a relaxing oasis.
Really? He sounds great. How can I get a hold of him?
You can go to his Facebook page at Perfect Tile and Flooring. He is fully insured and accredited by the Better Business Bureau.
Wow, thanks, Justin. And we're back.
Hi.
Huh? So, we're just going to talk now about the different ways of being stuck in early childhood education. Not just our experience, but also the experiences of other people who have come to us and looked for guidance or support or peer mentoring or whatever. They've come up with some different ways that they were stuck and they wanted us to help them get unstuck. So the first thing that's very common in people trying to kind of switch curriculums or try something a little bit more in depth or reflective practice, anything like that, is stuck without a team. And I don't mean stuck without like any coworker. I just mean like stuck with coworkers who are not
On the same page.
on the same page. Exactly. They're not going where you're going. They want to keep doing their same old routines. So that's a challenge that I personally have not really had to endure myself because when I started working at Peter Green Hall at the beginning of my career, I had an amazing team. I had two amazing mentors, Bobby Lynn Keating and Annette Comeau, not Annette Coates anymore, Annette Comeau, and they taught me everything there was to know about Reggio Inspire practice and emergent curriculum at the time. I learned a lot of documentation skills with them, a lot of environmental design skills with them. So I was very fortunate. It wasn't until much later in my career that I started to work in situations with coworkers who didn't have experience or education. So I was stuck just teaching them the whole time how to teach. And, that was very uncomfortable for me because I feel like I'm a team player when it comes to the classroom.
Are you?
Am I? I don't know. But I feel like I like to work on a team. Maybe I feel like an outspoken member of the team. Maybe I feel like I have a lot of ideas on the team. But I don't feel like everything should be my decision. And when working with people with a lot less experience and trying to bring them up to speed on how to do things, sometimes you just kind of fall into that role of being the boss when you really don't want to be the boss, but you're really just trying to explain kind of the ways that you do things that brings them up to,
Meet them where they're at.
meet them where they're at so they can come up to not your level, but like to the similar style of practicing, that sort of thing. Justin, do you have any experience with this?
Again, like you, I started at Peter Green Hall, so we had a great team. And I think one of the things that I would say when I got out of there was meeting with different teams and different minded people. And it was hard to work with people because I had the idea of what a team should be. And so that's where I was stuck because I couldn't see what other people were doing and where they were at. And so that's kind of where I was stuck trying to build or recreate a team that I was so successful in. and trying to do that, I was missing where people were at, and so that's something that I had to learn quickly.
That happened to me too after working with that dream team of me, Annette, and Bobby, where each one of us had kind of like a specific interest. I really loved being outdoors and challenging the children's gross motor development. Annette was the artist of the room, so she really helped develop their aesthetic eye and their art skills. And then there was Bobby, who was more like the conversation development, so she would help the kids develop their ways of expressing their ideas, their non-artistic ways of expressing their ideas. And the three of us together were such a dream team that when I moved on to my next team, I didn't have that same trio of skills. I had whoever I had in when I first moved to after schoolers. It was like a rotational temporary person who came through. The previous person who worked there, Elizabeth, warned me about that you'd always get the maternity leave sub or the person who was just starting or the student who was in on summer, and you wouldn't really get a proper coworker. And it did take me a while to find that person.
Well, do you think it was finding that person or you maturing in your profession?
I've always been very mature.
Okay.
How dare you?
Okay.
I think it may be a combination of both. Sometimes when you start out with it really easy and you think that this is just the way that it is, and then the next person isn't that amazing person with 20 years experience coming into the room, you think they're no good. When really, you just have to develop them together. So that's how I felt at the time. So maybe I have matured in the sense that I might recognize that more now. But also, some of the people that I got in there were temporary people who didn't belong long-term in the field, people who were just not in the right age group, not in the right classroom.
Or headspace.
Or headspace, that's right.
Yeah.
And people who came from competitive situations of pedagogy, so they felt like they needed to fake it a little bit,
Right.
and I was not about faking it. So, yeah, that was my experience with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
So another thing that we touched on in in our last section was stuck without PD to help us grow. So can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I found with myself was when we went to our director, Barb, we would say, oh, we were looking for I don't know, something about curriculum or something like that. And she would say, oh, there's nothing here in Nova Scotia. You're going to have to go other places to get the training or information that you need because you're not going to get it here. And so by talking to Matthew about that, we realized that if we were going to progress, what we needed to do was make it happen. And that's something that we kind of talked a lot about. So...
And one of the things about that, it's so great to be in such a strong partnership
Right.
without this competitive feeling between us. I mean, certainly we feel competitive to get awards and degrees and stuff like that, but we don't feel like we're lesser than the other one. It's just, oh, you've got a new degree. I need to, you got your master's. I need to get my master's now. You've got this award. I've got to, push to do better and see if I can get an award too. So we do push each other, but not in a negative competitive way. So we really benefited from that as a duo, as a team. So
I find that if you are saying to yourself, I'm trying to find PD, that might mean that you are the person now in your career that needs to make that happen, where you are going to go now and host a workshop or host a conversation so that you can begin that dialogue in that way.
Yeah, back in maybe 2010
it was,
ish, we had a great mentor of ours, Carol Ann Lean, who had started up these groups of educators who were practicing emergent curriculum and Reggio-inspired practice. We would get together and share ideas. We'd share projects, we'd share documentation, we'd question each other, we'd argue about things, always very respectful, always very supportive. But it was just a place to meet your clan, your tribe of people who wanted to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And through those arguments and discussions and presentations, we got more comfortable speaking publicly, and we became the people giving the PD on that stuff. So If you don't have something to go to, start something and let other people come to it, and you'll learn from them, and they'll learn from you. But if be the change you want to see. Yeah. Anyway, we are going. Oh no, we have one more topic here. Stuck in routines and scripts. That's the other thing. This is something that I don't
We've
know.
come across a lot.
Well, we've come across a lot, but because we started in a situation that was emergent and Reggio inspired, we weren't stuck in those routines of I don't know, telling the children things, pre-planned curriculum, that sort of thing,
Right.
which is really one of the problems. You know what I mean? Making it stale, just depending on the thing you know what to do, depending on Pinterest, or depending on the ideas that are already out there in videos and things like that. Um,
And I just want to add, it's also that what had worked with a specific group of children, and then you're trying to recreate that again, and the children are saying no.
Right, because it's not what they're
Yeah.
interested in practicing about or interested in learning about.
Yeah.
I'd just like to highlight at this point that we practice a more emergent curriculum, a more reflective curriculum. So the stuff that we work on with children are stuff that they're already interested in or that they are wondering about, and that's kind of the lens that we come to. So
And I think just to point out that we were stuck in many of these situations, and what we realized is that we wanted to be more like responsive to ourselves as well as the children that we are working with. So that's kind of what helped us get out of those scripts.
yeah, and for other people who are stuck in scripts, they say things like, that's the way it's always been done, or that's what works, or that won't work.
Yeah.
I remember designing a classroom in my first trio, and I was like, hey, let's put the block area over here in the corner. And my two amazing coworkers were like, no, that won't work. And I'm like, well, why won't it work? And they're like, well, because this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen. It'll be too loud for this and too whatever for that. And I was like, well, why don't we just try it though? Like, what does it hurt to try it? It's a little bit of work to move the
Yeah.
stuff there, but maybe now it will work. And that maybe now it will work was enough of a challenge to them to be like, you know what, you're right. Why am I saying no? Why should we not try this?
Yeah.
So sometimes just challenging that assumption that we know what's going to happen or what will or won't work is enough to move yourself out of this. Well, to move your coworker out of the script. It's a little bit more difficult to move yourself out of the script because
Yes.
I mean, you're in a classroom, you've got 20 kids, they're doing their things, and you are keeping it together. And somebody's like, hey, I want to throw paintballs at the wall today with the kids. And you're like, no, that's really going to mess with my plans on drawing the plants in the classroom and building ramps over here and going on a walk through the oaks. So I don't really want to do that because it's going to mess with my plans. Sometimes you've got to mess with your plans. You've got to give it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you're giving it up and allowing your coworker to do that, your children will see that and potentially they'll take the lead, in the future as well.
I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, it is time for our next commercial break. We'll see you in a couple of seconds.
Hey, are you looking for an ad space to promote your personal business? Just send us an email at justinwestart@gmail.com for your own audio ad and shout out in our next YouTube video. We can include logos, photos, and other contact information for your business. Thanks and enjoy the rest of the video.
And we're back.
So, Justin, can you think of a time that you were stuck in a routine or script sort of situation?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think one of the biggest is something that was more recent when I was working with the preschool age children and pre-primary. I had set up the room and it was aesthetically pleasing, and that was the way that I always had it in a certain way, like an area would be a certain way. And so I had a carpet with the kitchen area and all of that stuff. And my student teacher from the college would come over and notice that the children were bringing sand over to the kitchen area. And I was freaking out, like, why are they bringing this over here? And she just simply said to me, well, why not? Like, what's it hurting? And I was like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to vacuum anymore.
And in that moment, aren't you kind of like, you shut up and stop telling me, student, you're here to learn.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it was one of those moments where I stopped and I realized, why am I stressing over this carpet that maybe doesn't even have to be there? So I actually asked her to pick up the carpet and wheel the sandbox in, and we'll put the carpet somewhere else. And the children loved it. They were doing more work. It was way more quieter in terms of they were actually busy working, and the noise level was excitement and the
The
things,
busy buzz.
yeah. And so when I stepped back and was seeing that, it was just a simple thing: take the carpet out.
Yeah.
And I couldn't take the carpet out. I was so fixated on that carpet.
So fixated on the
Aesthetic, yeah.
of what you
and-
thought it should look like, that it got in the way of what the kids
Yeah.
should be doing.
So it was great to have a team member to call that out.
And I think it's great that you had a relationship with your student where they felt comfortable calling you out on that. I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't just happen. People don't just walk into the room and they're like, hey, I'm going to tell this person who's grading me,
Yeah.
you know what, you're doing it wrong and I'm going to tell you how to do it right. You have to really, nurture that every relationship with, student, teacher, coworkers, and your bosses as well, to be more negotiative as opposed to like, these are the rules.
And I think that would help with those conversations to get out of scripts or anything that we've talked about today, to have a supportive team.
Absolutely. So that reminds me of like a little saying or ism or quote, which is, if it didn't get messy, then what did the children even do? What did they even learn?
Right.
When they go home covered in mud, that was a day of learning. When they go home covered in paint, that was a day of art. And when they go home and they're dirty and messy and sweaty, that they worked outside. But then when they go home and they're clean and look exactly like they did when they went in, what did they do? Sit in a box the whole time?
Gross.
Anyway, so one last little thought about this is that recognizing that you're stuck is a huge step, into the idea of developing further to improving your practice. If you see that you're stuck, then you're ready to make change. If you don't see that you're stuck, you're not ready for the change. And it'd be really hard for somebody to point that out to you.
Yes.
Especially if you have a big ego and you don't really want to hear criticisms of your practice.
And I think the important thing is building your group of supportive people. And it doesn't have to be inside your classroom, and it doesn't have to be inside your center. Start going out to workshops and networking there. Start going to, meetings or something like that. And then you can start finding people that will help build your practice.
Yeah. And since it's COVID times and we can't really get out, if you'd like to, you can actually just share your comments, your own experiences to us in the comment section below, or you can send an email to us at, go ahead.
justinwestart@gmail.com.
And we'll just use that email for now. So if you have any stories that you want to send an email or just short little comments, you can add those and maybe we can discuss those in the future.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to point out that in our next talk, we're going to be discussing outdoor play and giving a shout out to our new article. What? Anyway, till then, keep walking, children, in nature. This has been Matthew.
And Justin.
Bye for now.